Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Black heart, black mind, black in again. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. Listen, y'all. I want to briefly talk about something I noticed in two movies. They are The Perfect Man and The Fatal Affair. In The Perfect Man, Michael Ealy's character was off base. He was not necessarily a brave man, but he had terrible insecurities, and they were violent. In converse, Morris Chestnut's character was a solid man. He wasn't lacking in courage per se, but he had issues when it came to marriage because of what he'd seen others go through. And when there was a conflict, Michael Ealy never confronted and challenged him per se, or Michael Ealy's character never confronted Morris Chestnut's character. But he did kill him in a well-planned but very unmessy manner. No confrontation. He didn't completely back down when he was confronted in the bar. He just tried to be smooth about it, but he took Morris out in a very stealthy manner by setting up the car crash and then killing him while he was crippled. When The Fatal Affair came out, Omar Epps' character was willing to take physical risks with man or woman that Michael Ealy's character was not willing to take with Morris Chestnut's character. What I'm saying is this. Either, one or two things happen. Either, in each case, the man with lesser melanin was depicted as somehow being soft, less confrontational, whether provoked or unprovoked, less confrontational. And the men with more melanin were depicted as being more confrontational. Either that's what it is, or we're simply trained to think this way anyway, to the point that it doesn't even have to be real for us to think it and see it. What I suspect is that it's actually a little bit of both. My suspicion is that on one hand, we're already trained. So we'll look at each of these movies and we'll say, well, in each case, the lighter skinned guy was softer. When he was right or when he was wrong, he was softer. And the more abundantly melanated brother was harder and tougher when he was right and when he was wrong. I want this to be understood. I want this to be noticed. That on one hand, the willingness to be confrontational in both cases did vary. But I also want us to understand that the extent of this depiction is probably altered by our own perceptions, because we already were brainwashed as a people by the time the first one came out, The Perfect Man. You see, in the second one, A Fatal Affair, when do you see something wrong? You don't see that the husband in that one was a coward per se, but you see that he was willing to stay when she darn near cheated, and then you see that he got caught off guard. And the struggle he was successfully able to put up was a disappointment to the adulterous character, or the would-be adulterous character. That's what you see. But the other thing too was that picked up on this. And this is one thing that we always have to remember when we see these movies. These movies, they imitate life, but they can't have a perfect imitation. They got to leave something out, and that is this. In A Fatal Affair, the husband had been in a body cast. I don't mean the actor, but I mean the character. The husband had been in a car accident and then subsequently a body cast for half of a year. If he was in a body cast for half of a year and his wife wanted to cheat, that would have been the time she would have pulled it off. Not after he'd made as much of a recovery as he was going to make. Not then. Now that's why we have to remember that even though we analyze movies to see what the minds of the producers and directors and the audience members are, we must always remember that they are still movies. And therein lies the balance. I hope that what I've said helps. But we do have to question how much of what we perceived as a pattern of behavior based on shade is just our perception and how much of it was actually depicted in the movies. We do have to question this because somewhere down the line, about 5 years ago, somebody stopped taking colorist jokes as jokes and started to really apply them. And now we're actually dealing with more of us that are not only subconsciously making these judgments based on shade, like what happened when I was growing up, but are consciously making these judgments based on shade. I hope that I helped. And I hope one day this won't even be necessary to play and listen to anymore. In other words, I hope one day in the future this recording of mine will be completely irrelevant. But until then, hopefully it helps. Black heart, black mind, black out, assalamu alaikum, and black heterosexual non-select male power just because they don't like it.